So my old buddy Rob Kall has a new book out about how things flow from the bottom up more appropriately than from the top down. I think you'll find it fascinating. Check it out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, and subscribe to our channel. My old buddy Rob Kall has a new book out. In fact, I wrote the foreword to it. It's called The Bottom-Up Revolution, Mastering the Emerging World of Connectivity. Rob Kall, K-A-L-L. Rob is also the guy who runs opednews.com, which is a great website for op-eds, for opinions and news and all that kind of stuff. Rob, welcome back to the program. It's been a while.
Yes, great to be here. Thanks so much.
So the bottom-up revolution, what are you talking about here, Rob?
Well, the smartphones and the internet have catalyzed a change that it basically brings people back to where they were before civilization. Humans existed for 7 million years, evolving to be bottom-up people living in primarily hunter-gatherer bands and tribes. And then civilization came along. Now, what does it mean to be bottom-up? Bottom-up is something that's talked about a lot. Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and George Bush have all talked about bottom-up, but most people think of it as grassroots or wisdom of the crowd or crowdfunding.
Democracy.
It's a lot more. Democracy, yes. And democratization is one of the most common words that people have used over the years. I do a radio show, Bottom-Up Show, as well on Pacifica Radio. And I've interviewed hundreds of people about bottom-up. And basically, we evolved to be connected to each other, to have an awareness of that connection to each other, a kind of connection consciousness, to have empathy and caring, to be open and transparent. And civilization came along, and it brought a top-down culture that brought domination and culture and hierarchy and slavery. And basically, the internet and smartphones have brought things back so that there are literally hundreds of genes that we have that express our bottom-up nature. And they've been repressed, and the internet and smartphones have brought it back. So it's changed things. People who have tapped this have made billions of dollars. Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and countless other sites have figured out what makes bottom-up work and makes bottom-up happen with people. And so what I tried to do with the book, I start with Op-Ed News. I started taking a bottom-up approach, bringing my writers and my readers. You do the same thing, Tom. You get your listeners very involved in your show. I started doing it with my website, and it started really soaring and having a really great response, so that we publish 500 to 1,000 articles a month. We see 150 to 800,000 unique visitors a month. And I thought to myself, what is bottom up? And the reality is that most people don't know much about bottom up at all. I've just tried to give a little better picture of what it's all about. And it's just like you've been to Nunavut, where the people live in snow. And the indigenous people there have 50 words for snow. They need those 50 words because they need to understand their environment better. What I've tried to do with the book is give 50 words or more, actually about 100,000 words, helping people to have a better understanding of what bottom-up.
Create a language around bottom-up. So how do we apply this to our politics, Rob? We're talking with Rob Kall, his new book, The Bottom-Up Revolution.
Well, we want to think about bringing in people. One of the things that I discovered is that bottom-up is the way that the new science works, systems theory and chaos theory. And what they tell us is that nature does not have to work with a 50% plus one majority. What I love about the book is that it spells out how, with a bottom-up approach to changing things, emergence can happen. This is a systems model.
So how do we apply this to our politics, Rob?
We start listening to people. The DNC is failing that miserably, and I think that what we need to do is actually listen to people and seek out their opinions. And Obama beat Hillary Clinton in 2008. Joe Trippi told me, because he had an incredibly more powerful bottom-up campaign than Hillary's top-down one with all of her influencers and money. And, Trump beat Hillary, even though he had 1/4 the amount of money, because One aspect of bottom up is soft power rather than hard power. Hard power is money and weapons. Soft power is attraction. And we do that with having a culture that people love, by being generous and giving bridges and building schools and hospitals. And we need to do more of that. We spend what, $1 trillion on war and $20 million on diplomacy. We need to do more of that. And in politics, we have to take that soft power approach. We have to attract. We have to get people.
It makes perfect sense. And to apply we're talking with Rob Kall, his book, The Bottom Up Revolution. By the way, for the record, Rob, I think the Democratic Party is actually doing a pretty good job of moving forward in some very progressive directions. But
there's a lot of hope. I agree. There's a lot of hope with the new faces.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tom Perez is actually a lot more open-minded than many would think. I think he's doing a good job. But so we talked about politics. You mentioned how basically Twitter, Facebook, and whatnot made a fortune using bottom up, and yet Facebook and Twitter have become essentially monopolies, and Google and whatnot. Which seems to be the antithesis of bottom-up. So what do you do when somebody uses your bottom-up strategy to build a multi-billion-dollar empire that is entirely top-down?
Well, we have to stand up for it. We have to elect people who will do like Elizabeth Warren is saying and break them up. We have to take a new look at digital monopolies and oligopolies, and we have to change them. We have to start getting them so that they're, you and I have for years been talking about the need to get rid of billionaires, to make it illegal to be a billionaire, to debillionaireize the planet. And we need to do that. We need to get rid of all these ultra powerful people, ultra wealthy people.
Wait a minute, you don't mean get rid of. What you mean is...
sorry, yeah. We need to make it illegal to be one.
Yeah, a top tax rate that like we had before the Reagan administration that basically says, if you're going to take that much money out of your company, you're going to give more than half of it to the government. So you might as well leave it in the company, build new factories, expand your operations, develop new products, all those kinds of things, right?
Well, I actually, in my book, I think that big is a top-down characteristic, and I write a lot in the book about how big can be pathological, and I think we really need to develop a science of small. E.F. Schumacher wrote a book about small 40-some years ago, and I think that we need to take it to the next level. We need to start looking at laws that prevent bigness, that prevent companies from acquiring other companies, that make it disadvantageous to do that. We need to start thinking about ways to keep government small, because government can be too big and problematic too. I've tried to write a book that looks at this from all different perspectives, and one thing that conservatives have said to me, hey, we think about bottom up too, because they don't like big government. Well, yeah, I think we have to look at anywhere that is too big, and we have to try to make it smaller and make it more attractive to be smaller. And I think that it's doable. I mean, I write in the book about the Zapatistas and how they've changed a whole major section of Mexico, taking and changing the laws and changing the way people work and take care of each other. It's an example that it can be done. It can be done on a large scale. And we have to have a vision that's a bottom-up vision. What makes it really great is people, like I said, have in their genes this potential to be bottom-up. So when you shoot for getting people to be more bottom-up, it's there waiting. When I talk about the genes, I'm talking about epigenetics. With epigenetics, you have a gene, but it doesn't necessarily get expressed. So think of a redwood tree. You take a redwood tree seed and you put it in a cup of dry sand, nothing happens. No expression. You put it in sand with water and you get a stunted small plant, because that's not enough for a redwood tree. Put it in a deep forest with the right conditions, you get a 300-foot redwood tree. Our bottom-up nature is like that redwood tree. There's so much potential for it to make us great, make us love, make us compassionate and empathic, make us be fair, make us have this connection consciousness that I think is the core message of bottom-up. And the other side of it is, if you have a business, you need to understand bottom-up if you're going to be successful.